Thank you, Business World, for this forum. It's a pleasure to be part of this, and I'm sure that I'll be running again sometime shortly. So let me start with ROAS as a topic, which is close to heart to most of the CMOs, and how to achieve that delta. Most of us have sorted the problem of knowing what the baseline is. So how do we go about pushing the line further and trying to achieve a significant delta over the baseline? So let's start with one of the ROAS framework here. And as you can see, there are digital actions which can be taken which are organic in nature. So there are various manifestations of digital actions. So you could do Google Analytics metrics, net sentiment, and organic share of search. Now, share of search is an area which could be organic as well as paid, but it's very difficult to figure out and get this information easily. So one has to work extra hard to get share of spend or share of search. So one has to do certain analytical methodologies to get this data in. More traditionally, we see digital actions which are organic in nature, inorganic in nature, in which you have top of the funnel spends, you have mid funnel spends, and bottom of the funnel spends. Now, here what the critical element is that most of the ROI measures, when you are looking at it, bottom of the funnel would mostly read a very high ROI. Reason being, because that's where the sale also happens. So when you measure the ROI for the bottom of the funnel, you are generally going to get a very high ROI. Now with that background, how this funnel nature is changing. So if we look at 5 years back, there was some top of the funnel, there were very, very limited bottom of the funnel avenues to spend money on. But with time, as of today, I would say that more than 60 avenues are available to the marketers to spend the money on. And then what you want to do with all this? You want to link it to the sales that you are generating. You may be generating sales in your own DTC, direct to customer, or you may be generating it in, let's say, Amazon or Big Basket, Flipkart, or any other marketplace which you are listed in. If you see, organic SOS we had put on the top, and below if you see, there is paid SOS also. Now, paid SOS is something very difficult to measure and have, and you can have very misleading numbers as far as SOS is concerned, because it's a market number that you're trying to gauge against. So mostly you go wrong there. So having better techniques to get it right is important. Bestseller ranks, platform rankings, so these are very important measures. So coming to what contributes to the ROAS delta. So here are few very important points that I'd like to cover today, that if we were to think it from a CMO standpoint, he has got the baseline, so he's trying to push that number up. So first, what that baseline looks like. So let's just review that also in a bit. But getting the measurement right and getting the actioning right, both these aspects are extremely, extremely critical. So I'll just explain what goes into getting measurement right and action right. Interaction effects. Now everybody's dream is that if I'm doing digital spending, do I get to see an overlay of some kind of a TV or a promotions or some kind of a discounting that I'm doing? So it is everybody's question, but is that a myth or does it really exist? So that's a question we'll answer. Share of search. I'm detailing this part because this has become very, very critical in the scheme of things. So your paid actions and your competitors' paid actions have immediate impact on what ROAS you are going to generate. So we have good potential to tap this. We don't have time today to cover balancing of the category functional needs and latent need of the keywords. If we look at customer level ROAS, I would say this is single most enlightening piece. And why does it, give us a extra insight into the customer? I mean, when you will see those numbers, you will make it out for yourself that why this is an important one. Affect versus cognition, I'm dropping for now. We'll move forward. Integrating competitive intelligence, where pricing, discount, again, share of search, bestseller, ratings, and reviews are going to be important. This is the traditional way of looking at things. You were looking at single source panels. You were looking at market mix models. But market mix model is quickly losing its relevance. What has taken its place is multi-channel attribution, because today you are not doing one channel sales, you are not doing one channel advertisement. So you have to manage both multi-channel sales and multi-channel spending. So how do you get the two together? So without doing multi-channel attributions, it's extremely difficult to get the data right. So don't look at the numbers below so much. They vary quite significantly by category that we are looking at. But yes, MCA has the promise of delivering much more in terms of volume gain. So let's check out this aspect where we are talking about the key measures, measurement issues. So what were the issues which have been there in the last 5 years? So you would see that poor or slow loop between offtake and spends. Again, you want all sales to be always connected to spends. But the fact is that in the last 5 years, this was a very big problem, but more or less today it has been solved, except for modern trade and to some extent, of course, also general trade. But if you talk about e-com, most of them are getting offtake data which is now linked to the spends. However, real-time day-level feeds are not available. What is the implication of that? So if real-time day-level feeds are not available, Amazon provides you that. Go to Vendor Central, you are able to get it. You go to Flipkart, you are able to get it. Try doing that with Nykaa. Currently, they may not be able to provide you a day-level feed. So it impacts your ability to go granular and pick this information up and get the ROAS right. So, but this is improving. Things are changing on this count. I will leave the third point, come to the fourth, over-attribution on downstream spends. Because you are very close to the point of sale, like Amazon, AMS, if you would have known, if you spend money on AMS, you are likely to get very high ROI. Because that's the point at which you are building the traffic as well as making the sales. So naturally, you will have over-attribution issues, so which need to be corrected as well. E-com versus D2C traffic. Now, I remember, few years back when we were looking at how D2C is doing versus, let's say, marketplace e-com, most of the click to action would be happening to your own D2C. But marketers have, I would say, recently figured it out that D2C may be very exciting to know loyalty, may be very exciting to know your returns and extra behavior about your consumer, but it is not enough to generate the kind of volume you are looking for. So you would always be thin. You might get a great ROAS, but you will be very thin as far as scale is concerned. So I wouldn't suggest that you do a lot of click to action to DTC, but believe you me, 5 years back, 80% of the click to action was coming to the own websites, and they did not even have direct to consumer portals. So it was a waste. But now, if I say, it has become about a 80-20 kind of a split in the traffic that you generate. There were no digital ROAS benchmarks. CMOs have pushed for the benchmarks. I'll show you some slides later to make that point. There was no good bad spend qualification. Then spend allocation was business logic driven. So I'll leave it at this one, and how each of these points have changed, we'll just look at that, the points which still remain. So share of search is an issue which still remains, needs to be addressed. Day level feed remains an issue as far as MT is concerned. Actual digital spend learning and campaign rejig, cycle lags, that is still an issue. So we'll just leave this point as it is. Over attribution still stays because the nature of the funnel has changed. Lot of opportunities to spend, lot of opportunities to sell, but because of the funnel nature changing, it has become even bigger problem. So there is this problem to be addressed definitely. Spend allocation. Now once, even if you have figured out that this is my ROAS, this is the media which works, but your in the end of the day, your agency has to believe you. right? So you may go with great model, great working, but in the end, they may say that, okay, we have another model, or we have another way of allocating, and we have a good sound logic. So which is fine, both can coexist. So question is that what is the ratio that you maintain between the two? So partial allocations you may do manually or via knowledge, wisdom, and partly you may want to do via the spend algo so that you know where you are heading actually. Campaign level ROAS are not there. Now to get measurement in place, you need to have some way of knowing how your volumes are looking. Just focus on the graph below. The blue worm which is running, it is actually the volume. And you want to see how volume is stacking up against all the spends that you have done. So you could see on the left where that block is, red block. So that red block shows us, yes, volume is aligned with the spending that you are doing. Very good news, right? When you do the splittles. Go right. Look at that. You have that another box. There is no spend below that. That doesn't mean that, you are getting some free money somewhere, right? You are seeing actually a lag effect. You see a small spend which has happened prior to that, which has contributed towards that peak. Plus, there are events which are happening, platform level, discounts may have been offered, so there could be other reasons also. Likewise, you see that there is a worm which is moving and you have explanation. So ability to decompose, that means getting the measurement right is extremely important. That's point number one. Ability to take it back to the brand teams that, okay, this is how you're going to action it. Okay, your ability to know, this is my incremental sales, this is my base. Now, why are you doing all this? You're doing just to figure out, does your brand generate enough volume by itself without having any support of the digital, or does it need strong impact? Now, if you see 58% incremental, is that a good news or a bad news? Is that good? Yeah, if you are heavily into spending, it's a good news because your brand is responsive. But technically, if you see, your base is a small base. It's a 42% base. Now you have to go back and see whether this particular brand was a large size brand or it was a small size brand. So for a large brand, this is the bad news. For a small brand, this is the good news because you can grow. Incrementality is there and you could put more money, get more money back. So this works fine. But you have to also present back which are the top spend ROIs by on-platform and off-platform. By off-platform, I mean top of the funnel. By on-platform, I mean on the platform, which is mostly bottom of the funnel. So you know actions, you know what lift you are getting by event, non-event, super event period. So there are some interactions in play. So we'll talk about those interactions in a short while, but we'll just move on. Now look at this. That was a brand level view. This is a portfolio level view. And you see the line, here for the benchmarks, I think you can pay me $1 million actually. You're not gonna get benchmarks so very easily. But having said that, benchmarks are extremely critical to know whether you are in line as far as ROAS is concerned or you are completely off the radar. You cannot have it, at all category level. You need to have, category level benchmarks, number one. Number two, by the size. So if you see, these sizes, so 20 CR and above, less than 20 CR. Let's say I'm just putting a number up here so that you could compare. So this is a portfolio level view, so you check that out. Similarly, you do it for on-platform, figure out what's happening, you action it. So you need some automation, some simulators, so that you are able to action this quick and move with the decision making. These are things, which you could leave, but, AOPs, all of the marketers have annual operating plans and they do quarterly planning. So if you have found out good things, if you have simulated scenarios, but you are not able to action it, you are not going to see any results anyway. So it's better that you align and make it part of the AOPs which will drive things. Coming to interaction effects, which is myth versus reality. So I'll rush into it because not much time is there. Platform events, discounts, TV, hello. Hypothesis, do they have effect? Yes, notionally they do. Now look at this chart. What this tells us that where maximum volumes are coming from. So you see that big billion days, big Diwali sales, these are generating significant number and that's growing by the year. So it's a good and a bad news both. Your dependence on events has gone up significantly. It's a bad news. But if you want to generate quick volume, this is the way. You could go do it. And that's regular kind of events which are there on the right. So in regular, how much volume we are able to generate. We don't have time to spend too much on this, but this is one slide I'd like to spend time on, maybe a minute. You want to know whether your response is flat or it goes up as you increase the discount level. So where does it saturate? So if you look onto the left, and let's say we are giving an example of Flipkart for a category, the bars is what we see. So it keeps increasing. So you see that there is good incrementality even at 20 to 25%. Great news. Move to Amazon. You see that it flattens at 15 to 20%. That means there is no extra, buck I am generating by going further up. So it's a learning for a category. Don't extend it everywhere, but you need to know. A Big Basket has a different model. It offers small discounts, small everything. But yes, it has a potential to go up to a certain level. So it is a possibility. Now the chart below is what is the key to today's discussion, where we are talking about how you are generating that extra ROAS. Look at the leftmost. You see it is promo plus very small amount of digital. Okay? It generates a particular baseline. Go right. You add to it some TV. Your ROAS goes up. But point is that do we plan like that? Do we keep TV in mind when we are doing e-com? Do we keep TV in mind when we are doing MT? Or is it all GT that we are looking at, general trade? Keep moving right. So you have effects of various things. So hypothesis around interaction effects is evidence driven. So if you add TV, there is an interaction. You increase the digital, of course there's an interaction. You increase the promotion, there is still an interaction. So the point is, as you keep moving right with different combinations, you get a lift over the baseline. So you started with 1.18 and you have gone almost up to 1.78. Of course, there is a lot to talk about. Customer level ROAS is one important point I'll speak. There are a lot of things below that, but I think that's one takeaway I would like you to carry with you today. Look at this chart now. It will take a while to just appreciate what is there on this one. A brand gets an overall ROI of 1.45. Good or bad, I leave it to judgment. When you look at new customers you are adding, which is by chance, which are coming into your play, so they like the offer which is going on. They are brand agnostic, so they are just coming in. So your cost of getting them onboarded is 0.85. You spend $100, you get $85 back. Okay? You look at new customer who's coming by choice. Actually, it is even lower, 0.6. And you look at if it is coming because of other value proposition, it is about 0.5. So not much difference between 0.5 and 0.6. The point I'm trying to make is, new customer acquisition ROAS would always be much, much lower. But volume is there, traffic is there. Come to the last 2 points, which is where the entire story is. You look at repeat buyers tier A. Tier A is people who have good, decent purchasing power, but not the best purchasing power, decent. Look at your ROAS going up to 1.8, and the next tier, which is even more amazing, your ROAS has jumped and it has become 7.3. What is the difference between tier A and A minus? They are great purchasing power folks. So how would you identify those great purchasing power folks? That is a matter of dwelling, and it is an amazing thing to do if you are able to do, and if you run DTC, it is absolutely possible to get that. So DTC is your way to do a lot of this loyalty. But if you like this slide, here is something absolutely else for you. Look at this one, where that star has gone. Star has gone to 7.3, and if this slide makes sense to you, try to get it somehow in those actioning at your end. You see, for tier A plus repeat buyers, your ROAS is actually as high as 58.5, and this is a meta-analysis across categories. If I talk about specific category, specific platform, this number is just mind-boggling. It can run into hundreds. So you spend $1, you get $100 back. So what is it that a marketer need to do to get this going, and how to get that repeat buyer ROAS into play? This is an absolutely unseen space. I would suggest please delve in, do D2C from a very different standpoint. I'm sure it is going to get you definite returns on it. I don't think I have time for covering share of search here, but this has its own implications. So you figure out what is your share of search, what is competitor share of search, and are you doing better or worse? So you take it's like a market share. So it's a digital market share equivalent that you get, and you want to see it for paid as well as organic. Sorry, left is paid and right is organic. You put all that number together. Let's say this has been done on West Coast. This is a US work which is there. In India, this is picking up right now. And you keep building it. You have all these results out, and you can just see how much you have been able to gain by the virtue of this one. You run dashboards, you measure SOV, look at the rectangle, look at the oval on the right. It measures both paid SOV as well as organic SOV. So if you are able to capture it, next things are quite easy. So I will not get into a lot of other stuff, but I'll just come to the final slide. Don't worry about all this. So final slide is actually the first slide, which essentially says that to get that ROAS milestone, there are ways to bring that incrementality. Not everything can be achieved at one go. You may want to start with getting the measurement right. You may want to build certain interaction effects within the same system. Share of search is a different level game. It's a level changer for you. Customer level ROAS is something, if one is able to build that in, you are able to see the ROAS in a very different light. And I think it has major impact on how you plan your quarters, your year, how you look at what you can make out of a category's presence. So I hope this helped in some way in looking at the same information in a slightly different light. I guess I'm out of time. Quite a lot. So sorry about that, but I hope you took something away from this session. Thanking you once again. Thank you. Bye-bye.